Clarksdale, Mississippi is known as the birthplace of the blues. At the center of town stands an enormous sculpture of 3 blue guitars called the Crossroads. It's here where an aspiring musician named Robert Johnson supposedly sold his soul to the devil in exchange for fame and fortune. So it's no surprise that Clarksdale is home to an institution that pays homage to this American musical genre, the Delta Blues Museum. On display is a Mandinka kora, the African ancestor of the banjo. A 1946 microphone from one of the first radio stations to play the blues. And a piano played by musician Charles Musselwhite, who is said to be the inspiration for one of the Blues Brothers. But there's one artifact here that doesn't appear to have any obvious connection to music at all.
It's made of wooden boards that have been nailed together. There's an opening on one side for what would have been a door. It's over 100 years old.
This cabin is linked to the improbable rise of a 20th century musical icon.
This is the surprising story of the discovery of one of America's most beloved musicians.
It's the 1930s in Clarksdale, Mississippi. McKinley Morganfield is a 28-year-old sharecropper struggling to make ends meet farming cotton.
McKinley Morganfield was working on the Stovall plantation, but he was unhappy being a sharecropper.
McKinley's true love is music.
He took to music at an early age. He first started playing harmonica, and then he taught himself guitar when he was about 17.
What McKinley loves to play is a type of music born right in the Mississippi Delta, the blues.
He definitely had a power and an emotion to his singing that was unparalleled in the area.
But performing the blues can't put food on the table. So to supplement his meager income, he sets up an illegal whiskey still.
Well, having a whiskey still was both against the Mississippi laws and also federal laws, so he had to watch his back. The risk is that they would discover it and destroy it and throw him in jail or fine him.
But one day, something happens that changes his life forever. In August 1941, McKinley hears a knock on the door of his cabin, the very one on display at the Delta Blues Museum in Clarksdale, Mississippi. When he opens it, he's greeted by 2 men in suits. They tell him they have been sent from the government. McKinley is terrified.
He must have been freaking out as to what was going on. Were they here for his whiskey still? Were they trying to bust him for something?
But what McKinley doesn't realize is that these men are about to change the course of his life and the future of American music.
The encounter would have a lasting impact, not just on McKinley, but on the entire world.
It's 1941 in Mississippi. McKinley Morganfield is a struggling musician who makes ends meet by operating an illegal whiskey still. So when 2 government officials show up at his door, McKinley is sure they've come to arrest him. But this Mississippi moonshiner is in for a pleasant surprise. The men introduce themselves as John Work and Alan Lomax. But rather than bust McKinley for selling moonshine, they are there to hear his music. In fact, the 2 men have been sent by the Library of Congress to collect samples of American folk songs.
The Archive of American Folk Song was a program that the government funded to record all kinds of folk music around the United States. Traditional music, blues music, country music, bluegrass music.
And as Lomax and Work traveled Mississippi in search of people to record, Morganfield's neighbors pointed them in his direction.
Alan Lomax and John Work were told that if you're looking for a great blues musician, you got to check out McKinley Morganfield.
The men inform McKinley that they want to record him playing the blues so his music can be preserved in the nation's archives. McKinley agrees. He even seals the deal with his visitors by sharing some moonshine. Invigorated by this encounter, McKinley decides to quit sharecropping and put everything into making it as a professional. In 1943, he moves to Chicago.
A lot of folks had moved up from the Delta to the big cities for jobs, and when McKinley brought his music with the cultural roots and kind of plugged in with the electric guitar, they loved it.
McKinley lands a record contract and begins churning out albums under a nickname from his childhood, Muddy Waters.
He had this nickname since he was a little kid, like 3 years old. He got it from his grandmother because he loved playing in puddles.
Muddy Waters goes on to become one of the most important musicians of the 20th century.
Muddy Waters' music was so influential that the Rolling Stones took their name from one of his songs, as did the magazine Rolling Stone.
The famed musician dies in 1983. His contributions to American music secure him a posthumous spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and a 1992 Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award. Today, the log cabin where Muddy Waters once lived is on display at the Delta Blues Museum in Clarksdale, Mississippi. It recalls the humble origins of an American musical icon.